Hello everybody, this is Hammer Striker here. Got a couple CZs on the table, chambered in 9mm. I've got the CZ P09 and I've got the CZ 75 BD. Please don't forget to check out our website. Go to our affiliates page. You'll find discount codes for things like Mantis Axe and Core belts. Link to that cool little bore light that we use for lighting up the barrels. Use those links. It will often save you money, never will cost you any additional money, and helps the channel. And please consider supporting the channel on Player, formerly Utreon, where we can do some types of videos that are no longer allowed on YouTube. As I mentioned, they're both 9mm. They're both hammer-fired guns. So what's the difference? Well, the P09 is polymer, and the CZ75 is alloy, your classic metal gun. Both of these are really nice guns. The ones that I happen to have here are more in the duty size, full size category. So you get a full 3-finger grip even before you add a magazine or an extender or anything else. And that's true of both of them. They're both comfortable to hold. They're both on the big side. They're both a little bit weighty. So the CZ75 that I have here weighs 35.3 ounces, and the P09 in my hand weighs 31 ounces. Neither one of them are light. These are guns you could carry, but they're definitely not pocket or ankle. These are inside the waistband guns. But with that full-size grip, like any large gun, like a Glock 17, they're going to be a little more challenging to hide the grip. You may have a little bit more printing, but overall, you could carry these, and they do have the reliability that would go with it. So I have this one in my hand, of course, the P09, so I'm just going to kind of go through it. You've got a multiple slot Picatinny rail, front and rear serrations, kind of the shorter slide that has become very common with CZs, kind of a textured grip, texture all the way around. There's texture on the front of the trigger guard, nice undercut so that you can get your hands way up there. And note that the beaver tail goes pretty good back behind me, so I'm not going to get slide bite, not going to get hammer bit. I'd have to really get way back there to have that happen. Does have replaceable back straps and ambi safety, which is actually not a safety on this particular gun, it's a decocker. So if I flip it back around, show you how that works. If I push it down, it decocks. And you'll notice the hammer doesn't go all the way down. So see what the gap looks like? And then I'm going to fire it and see what the gap looks like. So when it cycles, it will go all the way down. But if you decock it, it sits on a stop. So that's one of the safeties. The decocker is the other safety, and it has the internal drop safety plunger. So these are designed to be drop safe. It's easy to hold. It's easy to shoot well. It's a little bit on the bigger side as far as thickness. The P09 is 1.46 inches thick. It's a little bit thick. That, of course, would count the decocker levers. But these aren't designed to be small, thin. These aren't micro compacts. That's not what they're made for. So one thing I'll note, the exact model that you see sitting in my hand is no longer made. The P09 is still made. It's called the Nocturne series. And it adds a few things, but most notably it adds optics-ready capability to the lineup. By the way, the MSRP on the new Nocturne version of this is $649. This was similar MSRP, but these tend to price in similar to the Glocks and all the other striker-fired guns, other than the fact that this is hammer-fired. Now, if I move over here to the CZ 75 BD, the BD is a decocker version of the classic 75. And this is the underpinnings of quite a few of the different models that are out there. The CZ75 is the basis for the Shadow and a lot of the other guns. Does not have a Picatinny rail. These are more your classic guns. Does not have replaceable back straps. Does have replaceable grips. I replaced these grips with some ones that I liked, but the stock grips are just black. And the stock grips are good. They're well contoured and easy to hold on to. No front serrations. Surprisingly, there was a little serration on the front of the trigger. And this has a reasonable undercut. It's kind of a get your hand up there well, and as you can see, it also has a nice beaver tail so that you're not going to get hammer or slide bit. This has the same safety features. So when you decock it, the hammer sits on a safety stop. It also has an internal drop safety plunger. However, the decocker is not ambi, so you don't have a decocker on both sides. Now, just like the other one, if I fire this, the hammer will sit all the way down. This would be meant to be carried if you're carrying it in the decocked position. This one doesn't have a cocked and locked position. Overall, they're both easy to shoot well. They're both reliable. Both of these worked from the first round to the last round. And ergonomically, they're both nice, even though you'll find that the P09 starts to have some more of the modern features that you would see as far as like front serrations, Picatinny rails, the replaceable back straps, all the things you're starting to see on more common, more modern guns. And of course, if you get the Nocturne series, you're getting the optics ready. I'm not aware of an optics ready version of this particular one, but that doesn't mean that there won't be one. CZ, kind of like SIG, comes up with a lot of variations. The sights on these are both nice. The sights on these are small dots. They're photoluminescent. Night sights are available. These are the photoluminescent, so you put them in the light and they glow for a while afterwards. Not super useful as a night sight, but they are nice at the range. Makes them easy to see. They kind of glow regardless of the range lighting. This one is your classic 3 white dots, though dots are a little bit bigger, but overall they're pretty common. You've seen this type of sight on quite a few different guns out there. Dimensionally, they're similar. They're both 8.1 inches front to back. The CZ 75 that I have here at the back is 5.4 inches from the top to bottom, and the P09 is 5.79, so the P09 is a little bit longer. But again, in the case of what you're doing with these, if you're carrying these, it's not going to make a huge difference. It's not a significant enough difference. And I already talked about the thickness. They're both chunky little guys, but neither one of them is markedly bigger than the other. Being hammer guns, they do both have double action, single action. So let's kind of go over the trigger. So I'm going to start with the single action. There's the take-up. Nice, light, short break. It's not a super crisp break. It's a little bit of pull through it, but it's not creepy by any stretch of the imagination. Of course, the hammer is down now. I am going to cycle it to show you the reset. The reset's all the way out of the travel, but it is relatively short travel. There's some take-up to get back on the wall. And then again, a nice, short, light wall. Really nice trigger. Now I'm going to show you the double action. So I let it all the way out. There's just a hair of take-up to get on the beginning of the pull. It's relatively smooth. It's not the smoothest one I've pulled. It's relatively light. It is surprisingly lighter than most. And of course, it breaks all the way at the back. In this case, it's a very long break because you're cocking the hammer and pulling the trigger at the same time. Now let me do the same thing with the P09. And we'll start with cocked. More take-up to get on the wall. Bit of a pull through the wall. It's a little bit creepier than the CZ 75, but it's still a nice wall. It breaks all the way at the back. Of course, you see the hammer's down. Do the reset. Similar. It's pretty much the entire travel of the original, but it's short travel. Take up to get on the wall, and then the break. And then it does, like the other one, have double strike or double action capability. So notice it's all the way out. Just a hair of take up to get on the wall. This has a heavier, but overall shorter double action pull, but it is also smooth. So both of these have nice triggers. Of course, the single action trigger on both of these is far superior to the double action trigger on either one of them. But the triggers worked well at the range. It was easy to shoot well. Of course, with it being a DASA, even if you start out in double action, when you fire it for the first time, it's now in single action, so you have a difference in the trigger pulse. You have to be aware of that, unless you decock it every time, which would kind of defeat the purpose. So that is something that kind of sometimes drives people away from DASAs. They prefer a DA only, or SA only, or something in the striker realm. I like the triggers. I like both of the triggers, and I found them both to work well. One thing I failed to mention, the CZ 75, the MSRPs tend to run around $8.99 on these. There's a little bit up and down depending on which variant model. And of course, if you get into the Shadows and some of the other higher end versions of it, the MSRP gets a comma in it. Neither one of these are super cheap, but of course when you get into the metal guns, they're a little more expensive. I will say that as the classic metal guns go, CZs tend to be a little bit lower on the price point until you get into the fancy competition models. And then they can get as expensive as the rest of them very, very quickly. From the standpoint of which one is better, there's not really a better, they're different. So if you're going to carry it, probably the P09 would be a better choice. It has a 19-round capacity magazine, which kind of looks like this. Has witness holes all the way through it. And I will put it in there so you can see the magazine in the grip. Contours nicely with the grip. Of course, even if you'd have to have enormous hands to be down here on the pinky extender. When you look at the CZ 75, it comes with a 16-round magazine. It's got limited witness holes. It does fit flush, sticks out like a little bit of a shelf. A little bit easier, depending on the size of your hands, to come up across that, but it really doesn't make a good pinky extender. So if you have a huge hand and you're down here, you notice your pinky is going to be on it. That wouldn't be as pleasant. But again, your hand would have to be a very large hand. The base pad on this one is metal and 16 rounds. So going back to if what you're wanting to do is carry, the P09 is going to give you the capacity, it's going to give you a polymer base plate, it's going to give you a little bit less weight, probably a better choice for carry, even though functionally they're similar. If you're looking for a classic gun, but you don't want to spend $1,500–1,600 on a SIG, but you want your basic classic metal gun, and you want something reliable, the 75 is going to come into play. Customize the grips and things like that. But I don't think you're going to find a reliability difference with either of them. You really can't go wrong with either of them. It more comes down to what is it you're trying to do. And of course with carry, the Picatinny rail, lights and lasers become an option. CZ75 lacks that ability. So when it comes down to what would I choose, I'd choose a CZ75 BD. I like the decocker, I like the gun, I like the feel of it, the ergonomics of it. It was fun to shoot at the range. And when it comes to carry, I've got that salved with the Polymer wonders that are out there, the Striker Fired Polymer wonders. I wouldn't carry something this size. I'm not trying to solve the carry problem with it. Therefore, I would grab the CZ75 BD. Beyond that, if you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up, share, subscribe, click that bell up there to be notified if you do. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Player, Rumble. We're pretty much everywhere. And thank you.